பேசுங்க. யாவரும் கலை நிகழ்ச்சியில் அடுத்ததாக இடம்பெற இருப்பது கணித்துறை வழங்குவது பச்சிமா காதர் பிரிவியாளர் வின்சர் பல்கலைக்கழகம்.
Thank you, Nadi singer, for the beautiful song. Next, Fatima Kader. She's a Windsor University professor. She's going to give a speech about working together.
Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Fatima Kader, and I wanted to say first thank you to Movement for Equal Rights and to Vijay for the really kind invitation to be here. And also to say that it's with a lot of gratitude that I'm able to make these remarks on the lands of the Iroquois First Nations. And I want to start with that because it's important to acknowledge where we are and what brings us here. And also because I think most of us know or have been following the news that in this particular moment when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report is coming out, it's really important to appreciate the Aboriginal histories and struggles that are continuing in Canada today. So the thing about the report, for instance, is that it talks a lot about the residential schools. So we're talking about how children were taken away from their families and about the schools or the internment into which they were subjected. And so these were schools where children were being held tortured, sometimes starved, they were being electrocuted. These were schools where they didn't have playgrounds, they had graveyards instead. When they built the schools, they built graveyards. They didn't build playgrounds because they knew that these schools were literally killing children. And I want to start with that because it's important in this political moment to recognize that, but also because I think it's something that a lot of us in this welcome community and as immigrants can appreciate, the fear that our children will be taken away from us, right? How many of us have talked about or thought about what the foster care system does to our children and how racialized and immigrant parents are the ones who are most disproportionately and most likely to have their children targeted. Because under these systems, oftentimes the way that we communicate with our children, the way that we raise our families is considered violent, sometimes for no reason at all. And so that's something that I think we have a lot to learn from in terms of the histories of how families have been targeted and have been subject to violence in Canada even before, and in other communities. And to think also about the ways in which sometimes even when there is violence in our families, even when there are things that we need support for, we're afraid to go out and ask for help. We're afraid to go to social workers, we're afraid to go to teachers, and we're afraid to go to the police because we know that this will invite even more surveillance and even more targeted violence. And our children will again be taken away from us, and that's what we need. What we need actually is more support. We need more family services, we need better schools, we need more funding. And so as I think about this, I think about the fact that the fear that we have of the states, the fear that we have of the foster care systems and of the police are very justified, right? We see this in the news. We see now a really big issue that people are talking about is carding and how disproportionately it is young, black, especially black, but also brown men who are being targeted by police for no reason at all. They're just walking down the street and the police are harassing them. And that's a really big issue. And again, I think that is something that even though right now it is the black community that is taking the charge on this, that is really making change on this, is something that resonates with us. How many times have we been afraid of what would happen if the police were to stop us on the street? Because of our immigration status, because of our poverty, because of our precarious work status. All of these things I think come together. What I was asked to speak about today is why it's important to come together and to work together across communities. And for me it's important because when we think about our own struggles or our own community issues, oftentimes we're thinking about our issues as though no one else faces them, as though we are very unique in our experiences. And it's true, right? Like when you think, for instance, some of the worst immigration laws that have come into place right now came in on the backs of the Tamil community. So when in 2009 and 2010, the MV Sunsi came to Canada and the Ocean Lady came to Canada with hundreds of families, with children. So I met some of these children and they were babies. Some of them were babies that had been born on the boats coming from Sri Lanka into British Columbia. But it was because of their arrival that the Canadian government changed the immigration laws. So now if what is called an irregular arrival, that is a group of people come to Canada and the Canadian government thinks that they were smuggled, then they will be sent to jail immediately, like automatically, and they will be held there for months without any ability to get out, even children. Like that is a law that came into place because of the Sri Lankan community, because of the Tamil community and refugees trying to come to Canada. This is how the Canadian government responded. But what's really interesting to remember is that after these laws came into place, it wasn't the Tamil community that was first targeted. It was the Roma community. It was from the people from Hungary who were fleeing Hungary and violence and racism in Hungary that were targeted. So even though the laws, when they were put in place, people blamed the Tamil community for it, it was used to target other communities. So basically what I'm trying to suggest is that across communities, even in the uniqueness of our struggles, there are commonalities. And if we want to think about how to create a better world for us as a community, it is really important we think about how other communities are being targeted as well. If only because the ways that other communities are being impacted are also the ways that we will be impacted. And if also because the way that we are targeted is the way that other communities will be targeted. And it is by thinking about how we can come together across our differences, by thinking about our common commitment to justice and to freedom, that we can start thinking about a better world for all of us. And so it's really inspiring for me to be here among activists and artists who are doing so much incredible work in their various ways. Because I think it is in the diversity of the beauty of our work and of our principled activism that we are able to envision a future and a place in this country or elsewhere where we can all work together and live together with meaningful justice.